come from the matrix.
Cause there's a short in the core and a bug in the system. And it's the flying lion lord of the flies. It's ghetto Morpheus, so listen. Left wing, right wing politics. Too many parasites that survive infernal Fahrenheits. Politicians belong in prison. Professors portray as if they live nice. Quiet, pious lives, but worship angels that fell from the highest heights. And bat-winged vampire types. Lies coerce us with endorsements to force us on their sides. But guys, both wings make the old new age arise. Like the phoenix, a fiery feathered fiend from the back of Buck, symbolizing the fourth Reich. Just like the towers they struck, cars playing as Christian or capping, like they love Allah. All the world leaders want world power and serve the god of dollar. They call gods of the abyss. Too bad our chair, the devil's a prince. This celebs assistance process of trying to twist your wits. Consciousness, intelligence, or common sense.
Come from the matrix.
To a couple other folks here real quick. Let me go to Jeff Shogel, Task and Purpose.
Thank you. Have any of the drone sightings been accompanied with sightings of a large rectangular black object, sometimes called a monolith, often accompanied by Also sprach Zarathustra by Richard Strauss?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. I would probably have to think back to the words of a very wise prophet, Obi-Wan Kenobi, who said, "These aren't the drones you're looking for." But beyond that, I'll just have to move along.
Let me see your identification.
You don't need to see his identification.
We don't need to see his identification.
These aren't the droids you're looking for.
These aren't the droids we're looking for.
He can go about his business.
You can go about your business.
Move along.
Move along. Move along.
You walk into this room at your own risk, because it leads to the future. Not a future that will be, but one that might be. This is not a new world. It is simply an extension of what began in the old one. It has patterned itself after every dictator who has ever planted the ripping imprint of a boot on the pages of history since the beginning of time. It has refinements, technological advances, and a more sophisticated approach to the destruction of human freedom. But like every one of the super-states that preceded it, it has one iron rule. Logic is an enemy and truth is a menace. He was obsolete. But so is the state, the entity he worshipped. Any state, any entity, any ideology that fails to recognize the worth, the dignity, the rights of man, that state is obsolete. A case to be filed under M for mankind.
Let me give you a little inside information about God. While you're jumping from one foot to the next, what is he doing? He's laughing his sick ass off. He's a tight ass. He's a sadist. He's an absentee landlord. Worship that? Never.
Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven, is that it?
Why not? I'm here on the ground with my nose in it since the whole thing began. I've nurtured every sensation man has been inspired to have. I cared about what he wanted, and I never judged him. Why? Because I never rejected him, in spite of all his imperfections. I'm a fan of man. I'm a humanist. Maybe the last humanist. Who, in their right mind, Kevin, could possibly deny the 20th century was entirely mine? All it, Kevin! All of it. Mine. I'm peeking, Kevin. It's my time now.
On my Area 51 line, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello, Art.
Yes.
Hi. I don't have a whole lot of time.
Well, look, let's begin by finding out whether you're using this line properly or not.
Area 51.
Yeah, that's right. Were you an employee or are you now?
A former employee.
Former employee.
I was let go on a medical discharge about a week ago, and I've kind of been running across the country. Oh man, I don't know where to start. They're gonna they'll triangulate on this position really soon.
So you can't spend a lot of time on the phone. So give us something quick.
Okay. Okay. What we're thinking of as aliens, Art, they're extra dimensional beings that an earlier precursor of the space program made contact with. They are not what they claim to be. They have infiltrated a lot of aspects of the military establishment, particularly the Area 51. The disasters that are coming, the military, I'm sorry, the government knows about them.
Right. The White House finally has broken its silence on the topic, saying that the drones seen over the Northeast are a mix, they say, of law enforcement, commercial, and hobbyist drones, saying no public or national security threat has been found.
Concern and frustration is building over the drone sightings on the East Coast. It's been happening for weeks now. Some have been spotted near military sites in New Jersey, others shutting down a New York airport for some time over the weekend. ABC's Rena Roy reports lawmakers and residents alike are calling for answers from the federal government.
ABC News going on drone patrol after weeks of sightings along the East Coast.
Once the sun goes down, these drones come out. Once the sun comes up, they're gone.
Quoting the article title here, mysterious drones swarmed a U.S. military base for 17 days. The Pentagon is stumped.
Ohio, now the latest of several states to report drone concerns as scrutiny over the federal response is building. An alarming drone incident that forced one of the U.S.'s most critical Air Force bases to close its airspace for several hours. This happened at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base over the weekend in Ohio. And just in, new air traffic control audio obtained by military news website The War Zone of the moment it happened.
Med Flight 8 Patterson Tower, use extreme caution for heavy UAS movement on the base. Security forces is handling the situation, and I gotta keep the lights down so that security forces can see.
We are also concerned people will take matters into their own hands and fire a weapon at an aircraft.
Drones have also been reported near Trump's estate in Bedminster, New Jersey. John Kirby says that area is restricted airspace, and they are confident in their ability to keep that airspace safe and secure.
Can you comment on the drones that are flying around New Jersey ports? It seems like the American people have a big disconnect.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people, and they should, because the people are really, I mean, they happen to be over Bedminster. They're very close to Bedminster. I think maybe I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster. I've decided to cancel my trip.
Have you received an intelligence briefing on the drones?
I don't want to comment on that.
Have you been?
Do you have any reason to think they're a threat?
Two quick questions. First, on vaccines, do you want RFK Jr. to revoke any vaccines?
No,
My administration is reclaiming America's heritage as the world's greatest spacefaring nation. The essence of the American character is to explore new horizons and to tame new frontiers. But our destiny beyond the earth is not only a matter of national identity, but a matter of national security. So important for our military, so important, and people don't talk about it. When it comes to defending America, it is not enough to merely have an American presence in space. We must have American dominance in space. So important. Very importantly, I'm hereby directing the Department of Defense and Pentagon to immediately begin the process necessary to establish a Space Force as the sixth branch of the armed forces. That's a big statement. We are going to have the Air Force and we are going to have the Space Force, separate but equal. It is going to be something so important.
Star Wars and the Big Joker as the Augur. Could the Don be playing the role of the Joker? Is his role as a wild card really designed to draw jeers from the crowd as the villain, only to distract the masses from a deeper plot to replace the mild manner of New Age, which is simply old age witchcraft rebranded as new, with blatantly anti-Christian sentiments and beliefs? Hatred for Trump will help create anti-Christian feelings. Once they see the old ones, the fallen and their demon spawn called the men of renown, people who are already looking for every excuse to do as thou wilt, will have new reason to stay cemented in their strong Aquarian age delusion. Could this be how those at the controls behind closed doors will unify the red and the blue, or the two towers, so that a one world structure can replace the two controlled opposing sides? Is this what this drone business is really all about? Is this why we've been conditioned to see this actor that will be number 47, which is 11, duality, Gemini, Mercury, Hermes, the fallen ones? Is this what it's really all about? Is this what we've been brought to? Are they preparing us for a grand show? Incrementally, first the drones, next more direct sightings, landings, interactions with beings continuing, like they kicked off 2024 with at the Miami Mall? Or how about the family in Las Vegas that saw beings in their backyard, and the police that saw them also after they were called? We are entering a new age, which is much like the old age, the days of Noah, and like his Republican predecessors, Reagan and Bush. Will he help to bring us a new space age version of the 9/11 change of life? Will he help to bring us a new version of 9/11 in this modern age, a technological and space-aged so-called version, with him and Elon Musk as the ringleaders, the Barnum and Bailey, to bring us the greatest show on earth in order to bring forth the changes that will facilitate a new world order that's reminiscent of the old age, where ancient gods walked the earth with men. There were giants in those days. Some things can be explained yet still not understood after a 2-minute TikTok. So here it is, my thoughts about what it is all about in a story form, because it's been a long, ongoing story that's led us to this point, and I think a few folks would benefit if they heard the backstory. There's a lot of pieces to this puzzle, and I'd like to thank all of the truth seekers who do their part to find those missing parts. Each content creator whose work is cited and or sampled is credited at the beginning of the video.
This is the clue we need to unravel the mystery of the Sith.
Star Wars is a franchise that is based on a combination of different legends and myths, both from the modern day and much older myths. Dune, for example, was a contemporary book at the time that draws some parallels to Star Wars, such as the hero's journey as the main preface for world building. The legend of King Arthur, the Excalibur, and the Sword and the Stone myth is pretty well recognized as part of the Star Wars mythos. Also, there are some other myths buried in Star Wars that are not as well recognized, such as Faust, the Golem, and the legend of the Iron Knight. Both Faust and the Golem were made into silent films in 1920s Germany. These early films have influenced how these older myths were interpreted in the 20th century. Like many movies during the silent film era in Germany, these films dealt with occult magic and witchcraft of some kind. For example, Der Golem, made in 1920, featured a magic circle where the powers of darkness are compelled to give a secret word in order to activate a golem that a rabbi had created from mud from the banks of the Vltava River in the city of Prague. This rabbi, who was known as Rabbi Lowe, was waving an inverted pentagram and chanted spells with his assistant, which summoned a bald-headed demon. This demon gave the rabbi the word that he needed to activate the golem. Another example is in Faust from 1926. A magic circle is drawn, and spells are chanted from an old book on occult magic in order to summon a demon.
From bestseller author Dennis Wheatley's The Devil Rides Out fills the screen with a special kind of visual terror.
What do you think quickly?
Caroline! It's over. Hurry!
See this? This is your spell protection. Is that what that is now? And who exactly gave you that spell? All that circle protects is you from leaving it.
In both films, a little bald-headed man appears. In Der Golem, it's not specified who this demon is, but in Faust, his name is Mephisto. With the character known as Mephisto or Mephistopheles, he is summoned by a scientist and professor named Dr. Faust. Faust is then presented with a contract by Mephisto to sign over his soul to the devil in exchange for unlimited worldly knowledge and unlimited material pleasures. Faust gladly signs over his soul after given a one-day trial. The bald-headed man that appears in Der Golem also offers information which leads me to think that this is the same or similar demon. In the 1926 version of Faust, Mephisto causes a plague on Earth by blocking out the sun with his left wing. This then unleashes a wave of fog that causes a disease in the village below. It was during the onslaught of this disease that caused Dr. Faust to lose faith in God and thus called upon Mephisto in his moment of weakness. This disease that was spread happened while a carnival was going on and could represent the weakening of society through complacency and distractions, making it vulnerable. The bread and circus is offered as a distraction to cover up the underlying rot of modern society. Mephisto looms over the city with his wing blocking out the sun, indicating the pervasive and corrupting influence he has. There are a great amount of parallels between this demon and Yoda from the Star Wars franchise. So who is Yoda? There are some interesting and strange qualities to Yoda's character. His race is not named in the films, and his origin is unclear. I came across a couple of images that seem to give some insight as to where the inspiration for his character might have originated. Firstly, a Yoda-like figure appears in a 14th century manuscript known as the Smithfield Decretals that are collections of papal letters that compiled decisions on church law and doctrine. The image was brought to light by Gillian Harrison, curator of pre-1600 historical manuscripts at the British Library. It is an illustration to the biblical story of Samson, which is an unnamed character that appears to be a demon of some kind. These images, more commonly known as marginalia and sometimes called grotesques, are often strange hybrid man-beast figures or animals dressed and acting as people, usually in a playful or vulgar manner. Often there is no direct link to the text appearing above them. Scholars have long debated the function and meaning of these images, and there is no single answer to what their original purpose may have been. These images often depict absurd things, turning the natural order of things on its head in a play between the sacred and the profane. Secondly, and more importantly, there is an image that appears in Manly P. Hall's Secret Teachings of All Ages, 1978, Philosophical Research Society Revised Edition. The text reads, Mephistopheles, the most notorious of the spirits of evil, is closely identified with the exploits of Dr. Faust. Goethe defines Mephistopheles as part of the power that still works for good while ever scheming ill. The majestic figure of the Arch-Templar familiar to the opera-goers is not the Mephistopheles of the grimoires. The secret archives of magic contain the names and depictions of all elemental demons and the methods by which they can be controlled. Of Mephistopheles it is written, He is under the power of Jupiter, and his regent's name is Zachiel, one of the throne angels of the Holy Jehovah. He can be made to appear on Wednesday mornings, Jupiter's day and hour, or late the same evening. He appears first as a fiery bear, but the lesser and more pleasing manifestation is a little bald-headed man in a black cape. So to explore the similarities between Yoda and Mephisto, firstly, Mephisto does not search for men to corrupt, but comes to serve those who actively seek out his services and collects the souls of those who have compromised and ultimately corrupted themselves. By summoning Mephisto and signing the contract to gain unlimited knowledge and material pleasures, they knew that their souls were eventually going to be carried off to hell. Yoda conveys secret occult and esoteric knowledge of the secret society of the school of mysteries known as the Jedi. However, he will only do this for the initiated, those who adhere to the view that there is a universal force, which can be used for good or evil. The force in the real world is called the ether or qi in Chinese. Mephistopheles in German folklore is known as a demon who walks with a limp. This metaphor is an indication of injury of the fall from heaven after being rejected by God for being a demon. Yoda also walks with a limp using a cane. In the 1926 version of Faust, there is a part during the summoning of Mephisto where it appears like a comet had crashed into Earth, and inside was the demon after being rejected from heaven. In The Empire Strikes Back, it sort of inverts this by having Luke Skywalker crash into Yoda's planet known as Dagobah. The setting of Dagobah is a foggy swamp-like environment. You can't see any leaves on the trees, and oftentimes these sorts of environments are associated with things like witchcraft because of its association with death and necrotic energy. Things like Macbeth come to mind when picturing the environment on Dagobah. The field where Mephisto is summoned in the Faust film has some similar qualities as well. If you examine the image in Secret Teachings of All Ages, there is a statue of the Baphomet figure on the upper left-hand side of the room. In comparison, if you take the image of the sigil of Baphomet, which is an inverted pentagram with an image of a goat's head in the center, and invert this symbol, it bears a striking resemblance to Yoda. The Baphomet figure is associated with Satan and the devil. Dr. Faust is standing in a circle performing a black magic ritual. The figure that appears before him is Mephistopheles. Once again, notice the striking resemblance to Yoda. When Anakin is presented in front of the Council of 12, he is standing in a circle with Yoda in front of him, much like the drawing in the Manly P. Hall book. The play Faust is often presented through the medium of puppet theater. Yoda is also presented to the audience in the form of a puppet. Yoda speaks in a backwards manner, which also is an indication of inversion and demonic energy. Mephistopheles also likes to indulge in horseplay and is addicted to practical joking in a friendly and familiar way. Yoda also possesses this quality when he meets Luke in The Empire Strikes Back. Mephisto was able to seduce Dr. Faust into selling away his soul by sweeping him away on a magical journey that was filled with material pleasures and decadence. This was all part of a one-day trial period in order to overwhelm his senses, much like the carnival environment. This is similar to how Star Wars seduces the viewer into wanting to fight for the rebellion or become a Jedi Master. Yoda teaches Luke many occult techniques, but the viewer is only given a vague idea of what it actually means to be a Jedi. Obi-Wan and Yoda basically teach Luke how to be a diviner, enchanter, charmer, consulter with familiar spirits, wizard, and necromancer. Enchantment or charming is hypnosis, mesmerism, bewitchment, and mind control, which is similar to the Jedi mind trick. ESP with clairvoyance and telepathy happens when Obi-Wan gives Luke lightsaber training with a blast shield covering his eyes. This also happens when Luke communicates with his sister Leia on Cloud City. Yoda teaches fortune-telling and psychic powers by telling Luke that he will see many things using the Force.
Through the Force, things you will see, other places, the future, the past, old friends long gone. For my ally is the Force, and a powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow. Its energy surrounds us and binds us. Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter.
Yoda also teaches Luke telekinesis and levitation by lifting boulders, his equipment, and his ship. There are also scenes that involve spiritualism and mediumship with apparitions such as Obi-Wan appearing as a Force ghost. This is necromancy and consulting with familiar spirits.
Don't try to frighten us with your sorcerer's ways, Lord Vader. Your sad devotion to that ancient religion has not helped you conjure up the stolen data tapes, or given you clairvoyance enough to find the rebels' hidden fortress. Sorcerers, clairvoyance.
This seems to be what both the Jedi and the Sith are interested in doing, is having control over the Force, which translates to all living beings in their quest for immortality. Essentially, this is the theme of turning base metals into gold, and the goal of the alchemist is to destroy duality in order to bring about the Golden Age.
But why? Why are these things happening? Why are all of the legacies of the past, the family, national borders, the right to practice any chosen religion, the right to private property, among other things, under such an attack? Is it possible that there are actually people and organizations who really want to change the basic order of things? Well, my regular listeners know the answer to that. Clues to the answers to these questions folks, can be gleaned from some comments made by people and organizations that are talking about these wide-ranging changes in the nature of our lifestyle. An Associated Press dispatch on July the 26th, 1968 reported this, quote, New York Governor Nelson A. Rockefeller says as president he would work toward international creation of a new world order, unquote. And you thought George Bush coined that phrase? Surprise, surprise. On January the 30th, 1976, a new document called the Declaration of Interdependence was introduced to the American people, and it was signed by 124 traitors, 32 senators, and 92 representatives, altogether 124 traitors in Washington, D.C., and it read in part, quote, 2 centuries ago, our forefathers brought forth a new nation. Now we must join with others to bring forth a new world order, unquote. And you thought George Bush coined that phrase. Surprise, surprise. Another individual who has commented is Henry Kissinger, probably the greatest traitor this nation has ever known, former Secretary of State. According to the Seattle Post-Intelligence of April 18, 1975, Mr. Kissinger said, quote, Our nation is uniquely endowed to play a creative and decisive role in the new order which is taking form around us, unquote. George Bush gave the commencement address at Texas A&M University on May 12, 1989, and he used similar words as well. His speech was on the subject of Soviet-American relations, and he was quoted as saying in part, quote, Ultimately, our objective is to welcome the Soviet Union back into the world order. Perhaps the world order of the future will truly be a family of nations, unquote. Historian Walter Mills maintained that prior to World War I, Colonel Edward Mandell House, the major advisor to Woodrow Wilson, the president at the time, had a hidden motive for involving America in the war. The historian wrote this, quote, The colonel's sole justification for preparing such a batch of blood for his countrymen was his hope of establishing a new world order of peace and security, unquote. You see how these people fool themselves? They always say that the end is peace and security, a world utopia. But to get it, they spill more blood than ever has been spilled in history. Each time they try to bring about their utopia, the blood runs in the streets. They're liars. They're hypocrites. They're manipulators, deceivers. They're the worshipers of Lucifer. Adolf Hitler, a socialist and the head of the German government prior to and during the nation's involvement in World War II, is quoted as saying this, quote, National Socialism will use its own revolution for the establishing of a new world order, unquote.
Man must destroy himself in order to achieve this alchemical transformation. Man's natural state of existence is his greatest barrier in order to achieve the golden light of the new age and be reborn. That is, to transcend human limitation and become completely post-human. These are the themes that underpin not only the Star Wars universe, but Faust and the Golem as well. It is the allegory of the alchemist and the mystery schools. So think about this the next time you watch Star Wars and they talk about using the Force.
You could keep on because the Force has got a lot of power and it makes me feel like that.
Out with the old idols, in with the new ones. And the 50 years of hip-hop funerary service. I contend that the 50-year anniversary celebration of hip-hop marked an end. It did what it was supposed to do, especially in its latter years, hip-hop. It helped the Illuminati establish their great work, unchallenged, except for maybe 2-3 years of so-called conscious, positive, or anti-Illuminati rap. 3 years worth out of 50. 3 years where that was a trending thing, a common and popular thing. And the rest of the 50 years has been self-destruction. Now we will see how much power Jay-Z really has. His and others like his services are no longer needed in this new world to come, the Aeon of Horus and the Age of Aquarius.
Hello. In the traditional motion picture story, the villains are usually defeated. The ending is a happy one. I can make no such promise for the picture you're about to watch.
Well, sure, I'd love to take off my hat. It's actually my hair, you know? I have lots of witnesses, so it is, but, hey, it's mine. It may not be pretty, but it's mine.
Both Donald Trump and Ronald Reagan had a number of things in common, including the slogan that Reagan had used to launch his 1980 presidential campaign.
Let us pledge to each other, with this great lady looking on, that we can, and so help us God, we will make America great again. Thank you very much.
And we will make America great again. God bless you, and good night. I love you.
I think he just brings an optimism back to the United States that we haven't seen since Reagan.
Of all the presidents in the post-war era, Ronald Reagan was the one about whom the establishment in Washington, D.C. was the most apprehensive before Donald Trump. And Reagan, like Trump, was perceived as an outsider, an American nationalist, someone that didn't appreciate the world. So in that sense, the two of them were the two figures, I think, who became president, who were the most feared by the national establishment.
Reagan and Trump were at the age of 70, the oldest ever U.S. presidents to be elected. The two right-wing Republicans had been Democrats in their youth, and both had taken an unorthodox route to the White House. Reagan came via Hollywood.
I'm the one they're all talking about.
Did you see him? Delicious.
I started as sort of an Errol Flynn of the bees.
Now wait here, both of you.
Tough luck, son. I guess we can't all have charm, and good looks too. I made about 8 of those in 11 months. I was brave, but in a kind of a low-budget fashion.
It is my esteemed pleasure to introduce Mr. and Mrs. Donald Trump.
That's Trump way back in 1994, appearing with then-wife Marla Maples on Will Smith's sitcom The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Mr. Donald! Oh my God!
Trump made cameos on many popular TV shows of the day. There was Sex and the City.
I'll be at my office at Trump Tower.
And Spin City with Michael J. Fox.
Mr. Trump here wrote The Art of the Deal. Then he wrote a new bestseller, The Art of the Comeback. 2 books. Wow.
He always played himself, and so that was how powerful his brand was. He always played himself.
Rebecca Sun is a senior writer for The Hollywood Reporter.
Anytime you have a sitcom that needs that stock character, Trump was not only somebody that comes to mind, but somebody who's super willing to do it.
He even showed up on WrestleMania. Trump also appeared in movies.
You were good.
There he is with Bo Derek in a movie very few people saw when it was released in 1989.
Be assured, Mrs. Scott, that in this room there are knives sharp enough to cut you to the bone, and hearts cold enough to eat yours as hors d'oeuvres.
Trump actually won an award. Unfortunately, it was a Razzie for the year's worst supporting actor. And get this, humility from the Donald. When he appeared in I'll Take Manhattan with Valerie Bertinelli, he admitted acting wasn't a strong suit.
I don't think that the legendary Clark Gable has anything to fear, I must tell you.
Excuse me, where's the lobby?
Remember Home Alone 2, Lost in New York? A young Macaulay Culkin runs into Trump in the lobby of the Plaza Hotel, which he owned at the time. And there he is with current wife Melania in Zoolander.
Without Derek Zoolander, male modeling wouldn't be what it is today.
Trump has also inspired fictional characters. Bombastic Biff from Back to the Future 2 was actually based on the Donald, according to the screenwriter.
You want to take a poke at me?
More trash than any of you. And there's even a character on Sesame Street inspired by Trump. He's called Donald Trump.
the trashiest. I'm the grouchiest.
New York City. And in this town, the sky's the limit. Believe me, I know.
Donald Trump was rather less low budget.
My name is Donald Trump, and I'm the largest developer in New York. I built a lot of buildings, but I also own golf courses, resorts.
He was a billionaire property tycoon who hosted a reality TV show.
I even have a television show. I am officially running for President of the United States.
The Donald finally announced he was running for the presidency after 30 years of hinting he would, and the severest doubts were raised about his fitness for office, just as had happened with Ronald Reagan. I made a film about Reagan when he ran for president in 1980. He'd served for 8 years as governor of California, America's largest state. But he was still widely seen as a trigger-happy cowboy.
I hope it's not a Greek tragedy.
I questioned Reagan at a rare press conference.
Governor, from the BBC in London, do you have any doubts about your ability to play the role of America's leading man?
Do I have any doubts about my ability to play the role of leading man in America? I've never thought of it that way. I left that profession. I have confidence, based on my experience as governor, that I can offer a better solution to the problems than either of the men who are running against me.
Reagan's campaign meetings are expensively stage-managed spectaculars made for the television cameras.
I would like to take the lead in taking government off the backs of the American people and turning you loose to do what I know you can do.
For his supporters, Reagan was the strong man America needed to stand up to the Soviet Union and its other enemies abroad. For his opponents, Reagan was a warmonger who threatened to attack the Iranian Ayatollahs who'd taken Americans hostage. The 50 US diplomats and citizens had been held hostage for over a year.
Do you really think Iranian terrorists would have taken Americans hostage if Ronald Reagan were president? Do you really think the Russians would have invaded Afghanistan if Ronald Reagan were president? Do you really think third-rate military dictators would laugh at America and burn our flag in contempt if Ronald Reagan were president?
As with Trump, the prospect of Ronald Reagan in the White House powerfully divided opinion on both sides of the Atlantic.
From the day that Reagan won the election, the metropolitan liberal elite, the media elite, they condescended to him, they laughed at him. In fact, at no point during the 8 years did they ever concede that there might be a decent point that Reagan had to make.
I was afraid, and I think most of my friends, we were afraid. How could a B-movie actor be suddenly going to be ruler of the world? Fear, his finger on the button, doddery, vague. Would he have any idea what he was doing?
Well, it's great to be here on Saturday Live. Well, it's great to be here on Saturday, anyway. I'm here to answer your questions, so fire away, fellas, as I said to the 6th Fleet yesterday.
Mr. President, what exactly are you doing over here?
Well, sir, let me answer this way. I don't know. Pretty smart for a guy of 103, huh? Next answer, please.
The satirist's victim, President Reagan, arrived in Britain. Like Donald Trump today, he had a woman prime minister as his opposite number. She fiercely rejected Reagan's spitting image.
In a way, there was a love story, a political love story between Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan. They found they believed in the same things, the same basic things: low taxes, strong defence, anti-communism.
We in Britain think you are a wonderful president. We share so many of the same goals and a determination to achieve them, which you summed up so well, and alas, I cannot imitate this wonderful American English accent. You ain't seen nothing yet.
I think President Reagan was a man who knew how to handle women. He spent a lifetime handling beautiful women, and he knew what it took to do that. She responded very much to that. She liked to be treated as a woman, not just as a prime minister.
Based on the career that I once had before this one, you are a very tough act to follow.
They both saw communism as fundamentally evil, that the communist system needed to be brought down and destroyed.
This poster parodying the film Gone with the Wind was for the most explosive love story ever. She promised to follow him to the end of the earth. He promised to organise it.
Well, what do you have to say this morning, Mr. President?
But surprisingly, following Mrs. Thatcher's example, Reagan made a U-turn and forged a strong relationship with Mikhail Gorbachev, the reformist Soviet leader.
Mikhail Sergeyevich, доброе утро!
The two men met in Reykjavik, the Icelandic capital, and were to reach a deal on cutting back their country's nuclear weapons. Donald Trump says he wants to follow suit and have a meeting with the current Russian leader, Vladimir Putin.
I think there will be a summit in Reykjavik even, which is quite interesting. Not unlike the summit between Reagan and Gorbachev some decades ago, where people were equally pessimistic, and yet what resulted? Frankly, the end of the Cold War. And we need an end to this Cold War.
So how does the veteran US diplomat Raymond Sykes answer the great question about what is the exact nature of Trump's relationship with Putin?
Damned if I know. I can't figure it out. But what is really President-elect Trump's view of Mr. Putin? I don't think he's just going to come over all soft and furry and be out there allowing President Putin to stroke him and they go off hand in hand into the sunset. No, that's not going to happen. Obviously it's not.
The admiration between Putin and Trump is horrific. I don't think it'll last for any length of time because they are both dangerous narcissists, very easily offended and affronted. And one way or another, one of them will rub the other one up the wrong way. It seems that Putin may well have all sorts of blackmailable material against Trump.
The notorious leaked dossier, with its lurid allegations of Donald Trump watching Russian prostitutes urinate on a bed in a Moscow hotel, and any tapes of the so-called Golden Shower, would provide the Kremlin with classic blackmail material, if the story is true.
It's all fake news. It's phony stuff. It didn't happen. It was a group of opponents that got together, sick people, and they put that crap together. Does anyone really believe that story? I'm also very much of a germaphobe, by the way. Believe me.
Okay, fine. Russia hacked the election. Are you happy, Mom? Next question. Yes, you, sir.
Yes, hello. I'm an American journalist, Wolf Blitzer. Are you sure Russia was behind hacking?
I mean, maybe.
But are you really sure?
It was China. I mean Canada. It was Meryl Streep. Okay, this press conference is over.
In January 2020, John W. Raymond was sworn in as the leader of the newly created U.S. Space Force.
Now we have a command with a singular focus on space superiority.
It is the military's first new uniformed service in 72 years.
Everybody, this is Bill and his team from Time Magazine.
Over the last 2 years, the Space Force has become tied up with President Trump's political prospects.
Space Force.
A main challenge confronted by the Pentagon is convincing the American public that the Space Force is not an unnecessary vanity project for the president, but rather an idea that has been under consideration for decades.
I couldn't help at one point in my discussions privately with General Secretary Gorbachev, when you stop to think that we're all God's children wherever we may live in the world, I couldn't help but say to him, just think how easy his task and mine might be in these meetings that we held if suddenly there was a threat to this world from some other species, from another planet, outside in the universe. We'd forget all the little local differences that we have between our countries, and we would find out once and for all that we really are all human beings here on this earth together. Well, I don't suppose we can wait for some alien race to come down and threaten us, but I think that between us we can bring about that realization. In our obsession with antagonisms of the moment, we often forget how much unites all the members of humanity. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us?
What could be more alien to the universal aspirations of our peoples than war and the threat of war? I think maybe I'd answer it this way. I keep, in my frustration sometimes, you know, actually, if you count some of the things going on in smaller countries and all, there have been about 114 wars since World War II. But I've often wondered, what if all of us in the world discovered that we were threatened by a power from outer space, from another planet? Wouldn't we all of a sudden find that we didn't have any differences between us at all? We were all human beings, citizens of the world, and wouldn't we come together to fight that particular threat?
Here, an artist's projection of the president's vision.
Banning into space, a layered defense to protect the country from nuclear devastation. U.S. spy satellites would watch the world below, detect Soviet missiles blasting off, compute the position and speed of each missile, alert battle stations in space, on Earth. The first response, space-based kinetic energy weapons fire high-speed projectiles from hypervelocity guns, intercepting enemy missiles as they are boosted through the atmosphere. Popped up into space, Earth-based nuclear-powered X-ray lasers fire their radioactive rays. Attack rays from land-based excimer lasers are redirected by huge mirrors orbiting in space. Chemical lasers fire beams that burn through the shell of the onrushing missile. Particle beam weapons with pulsing rays join the attack.
It's not even. Oh my God, they just shot like some smart bombs or something. Look at this shit. They drone bombs or something. Look at this. What? Oh my God, what they just shot over here? Look at this. I'm filming this shit. It is crunk. It is crunk out here. What? What they done shot down? Oh my God.
None of the known governmental systems of men are sufficient and progressive styles of rulership, in truth. Capitalism would potentially be ideal in some respects, if not for the realities of social economics and the impenetrable glass ceiling that is created by the worst forms of cronyism and nepotism, which are always present when membership in the brotherhood outranks talent, competition, and excellence. This is why capitalism has become merely a means to the ends which those who pull the strings of government wish to achieve. In a build and destroy maneuver, the goal is to allow for the negative effects of capitalism to appear to overwhelm the average American beyond their threshold of acceptance, so that the masses will cry out and ask, beg, for what will soon become a disguised form of socialism. This neo-socialism is a key and essential foundation for the New World Order. The way that the staunchest opponent of this closet communist agenda will be fooled into accepting this is through the desperation caused by carefully managed disasters and a collective public outcry for help. The goal is not to obliterate the infrastructure and foundations of a build, but to cautiously control the demolition, which allows a new structure to be almost seamlessly erected in place of the old one. It does not matter if that old structure is still sound, viable, or even if it was a better structure for the masses than the new one. One must also remember that the appearance of choice and freedom is a part of achieving this means to an evil end. The devilish trick is to convince the people that they want the new structure, even if it is no better for them or even worse than the old one. Marketing, promotion, and propaganda have helped to achieve this goal in times past, but no single method of action seems to be as effective as the use of disasters. Disasters like the one that happened on September 11th have been studied and cited as proverbial cusps which marked drastic changes in what we considered to be societal and governmental norms once upon a time. Many researchers argue that the C-19 scandemic was another chapter in this same playbook. Number 45 and number 47, 4 plus 5 is 9, and 4 plus 7 is 11, symbolically represents yet another page in this ongoing story. I believe that the scene is set for a new life-altering disaster that will be hosted by America's favorite corporate Nepo baby actor slash wrestler slash real estate mogul and political comedian. He will be like a modern P.T. Barnum, introducing us all to the greatest show above and then on the earth in contemporary times. And he is knowledgeable of his role, and he's read his script. We have gone incrementally from very few people seeing unidentified lights in the sky to groups of people in New Jersey and along the East Coast reporting these UAPs, now to cities all over the world having these sightings. The very first reported sighting in New Jersey dealt with unidentified flying objects interacting with secret and sensitive military facilities. We have been programmed for years through our science fiction fixation to accept certain things as plausible, even when we have absolutely no evidence or receipts to back those claims up. So the truth is that the aliens are watching us, quote unquote, come to the brink of self-destruction and will intervene before we are able to do so, allowing us to finally become a part of the galactic family. That's not the truth, that's a trope. This trope has not merely become a brain worm that has slipped into our subconscious minds from watching too many UFO documentaries and sci-fi flicks. Most people are unaware that this trope is directly connected to the New Age movement and their ties to a group of beings known as the Ascended Masters, the Ashtar Command, the Tall Whites, or the Galactic Federation. It is alleged by some researchers that these were the beings that Madame Helena Blavatsky introduced a young Adolf to. They have a leader named Sananda, and all you need to do is walk into any New Age section of the bookstore, and you will see a plethora of writings extolling the virtues of the Galactic Federation and their teachings, which are allegedly to help prepare mankind for admission into the galactic family of beings from other worlds. In truth, nefarious beings in disguise, malevolent extra-dimensional entities, or simply called devils and demons, deceptive in all of their ways. Those who believe in the types of deceptions that are listed in the Project Bluebeam theory propose that these alien humanoids may be the first ones to be introduced to us. Again, fallen angels and their offspring in disguise. And through these beings, we will gradually be introduced to more strikingly different looking beings. they'll start us off with the humanoid-looking ones, the ones and or the grays, who we've just about gotten acclimated to seeing. And then they will introduce us to more demonic-looking beings, because these beings want to rule us as the old gods in this new age, free from disguise. We may be told that there's an attack from some alien race which is heading our way, and only our new space friends can help to lead us to victory against this advancing alien threat. Many say that threat is only a threat to the Illuminati Luciferian elite, and that the real double cross is that the nations of the earth will be encouraged to wage war against the coming of the Messiah and his angels. Less extreme theories suggest that these beings, who we will consider to be humanoid, though we'll be deceived as a community of humanity, these beings will be poised as the true original forms of the ancient gods. They will say, oh, we created your religions, so there's no need to have wars over religions in the Middle East. The Ancient Aliens television program helps to prepare us for these particular plans for the last days. Yet the preparation that they gave us was to deceive us so that we would believe that these lights in the sky, these pulsating plasma orbs and other anomaly, are from the vast regions of outer space, light years away. In reality, they are from here, but not from this dimension or plane of existence. They have been in hiding, popping out every now and then to make an appearance. They have laid in waiting, as was their agreement to do with your governments. And we are seeing the time when they will be brought out onto the world stage for this grand entrance and for the devil's great acting role as deceiver since the garden. As it was in the days of Noah, when they were Nephilim, fallen angels and their offspring wreaking havoc on the earth.